Good evening and welcome to All Things Sky Blue match preview. I'll be joined shortly by my co-host Mark and also by two of Don't Scratch Your Eyes Out podcast members, Justin and Pete. Before I bring them in, just remember where you can find us, guys. We are on X or Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. If you follow us on YouTube, please go and like and subscribe. If you listen to our podcasts, please rate us 5 stars as well if you like what we do. We're partnered with the Anecdote Sports Bar at the CBS Arena, and we're also sponsored by Right Steel Fabrications. His logo's in the corner. He can do steel fabrication up and down the country, but mainly in the Coventry and Warwickshire area. So without further ado, let's bring my co-host in, Mark. Good evening, Mark. You okay?
Yes. Hi, Stuart. Good evening, everyone. Yep. Good. Thank you.
Fantastic. And first of all, Justin. Good evening, Justin. You okay?
All good, mate. Thank you. Yep.
Hi, Justin.
Good. And Pete. How are you, Pete?
Very good. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Good. No, you're very welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. So before we get into the games then, guys, does one of you just want to let us know where we can find you and what you guys do?
I can do that if you want. Yeah. So we've been going since October 2020, sort of during lockdown. We are on all the usual sort of platforms for your podcasting. We have a YouTube channel. We do post-match Twitter Spaces where it's a bit of a phone-in for Watford fans. We talk to ex-players. Our most recent one was a four-part interview with Troy Deeney that we did last week, which was just epic. We had him for 4 hours. Wow. We do all sorts of little bits and pieces, really. If you want to find everything, the best place to go is donotScratchYourEyes.com. Yeah, we're also on various other places at DNSYE_podcast. So that's us.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Again, much appreciated for you guys coming on. So let's get straight into it then. Mark, it was a 3-3 draw back at the CBS Arena back in September. It was as I remember it was a very to and fro. It was like them have a go, more of a basketball match rather than a football match. Yeah. A few... they had a penalty. We had a penalty saved. Godden missed a penalty. We actually found out that day that Milan could take a free kick, and there was a calamitous own goal by Watford as well. How was you feeling going into that game?
I think it was a game where I knew Watford. I always look at what happened last season, and last season I think was a draw. I know we won the game at Vicarage Road, but Watford away from home can be quite dangerous going forward, but shaky at the back. So I think it was a game where if we could have just been, kept our door closed, so to speak, at the back and kept things really tight, I think we would have won. But it was one in game that, as you described, very eloquently, that it kind of was a basketball match. I mean, Watford led 3 times in that game, and I think they'll be very disappointed not to have walked away with the win. But in all fairness, I think it was a game where both defences were pretty poor. So I think all in all, a draw was a fair result. I know since then that our season has improved and Watford has regressed a bit, as we'll go on to later. But look, I think looking forward to this game on Saturday, we need the 3 points to keep up the momentum for the playoffs. And Watford, dare I say it, are not out of the woods yet. They're only 6 points or 7 points. I think they got a point against Swansea. Sorry. So I think they need a win as well, just to make sure that they're going to be. I think they'll be fine this season personally, but they need the points just to make sure that they're going to be safe because there's still 10 games to go, so there's still a lot of football to be played for. So Watford, if they're not careful, could get sucked into relegation battle. So they need the win for that reason, just to make sure they're not going to get sucked into relegation fight.
Yeah, Pete, how was you feeling going into that game? If I'm honest, obviously it was very early on in the season. We couldn't buy a win at that moment in time either. How were you guys feeling going into that game? And what was the game like for you as well?
Well, it was the 5th game of the season, and we'd started off the season on fire. First 45 minutes against QPR, we were 4-0 up. We thought, oh, this is going to be brilliant. We're going to ace everything. And didn't realise that was the Gareth Ainsworth effect on all things, and therefore shouldn't really trust that. Next 3 games, we couldn't score. So, of course, coming to Cov, of course it was going to be 3-3, wasn't it? Because we couldn't afford a goal. We'd had 2 0-0s and lost 1-0 to what really should have been really a victory, a couple of victories in there, but we just could not hit a barn door. And then we came to you guys and you went, no, we've got nice bigger barn doors you can hit. Of course, yeah, in terms of the game, we returned the favour. I mean, one of the most comical own goals ever from Wesley Hoot, who is probably, I would suggest, probably odds on for player of the season, which, bearing in mind, he scored 2 own goals and he's also gave away the winner for Ipswich in the last minute, really does say an awful lot more about our season than it does about Wesley Hoot, bless him. So yeah, at the time we went into it, it was bonkers. I mean, the previous season we'd gone 2-0 up and thrown away a lead. That game we went a goal up. I think it was 3 times, and you kept pegging us back.
That's right, yeah.
And I mean, there was I can't remember if it was this or last season when it was the penalty save, and it was just it was all just crazy stuff. But hey, that's the Championship. That's what I enjoy personally. If you knew what it was going to be like, and if it was dull, they'd call it the Premiership. So there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Obviously, Justin, you've played obviously that game. I think you played a 4-3-3. Your last game against Swansea, you played a 4-2-3-1. I think it was. And
no, we didn't.
You didn't.
No, we've played a 4-3-3 all the way through the season until our penultimate game against Millwall. We shipped to a 4-2-3-1, and then after a while came back to the 4-3-3. The debates over last night's formation, I say hand on heart, that was a 4-4-2, a very ill-equipped one, but it was still a 4-4-2. But then in the second half, we shipped back to 4-3-3, and I'm sure that is what we are going to do, because our manager is under pressure, and he's trying to kind of go, well, if I do the same thing with the same players, I'll get what I've always got, which at the moment ain't that impressive. So, to suddenly just throw in a 4-4-2 or something along those lines was awful. And we got absolutely wiped out through the middle, because we were playing 2 in the middle and 2 very wide and going, oh, look, they've won the midfield. What a surprise.
Yeah, well, obviously, I went by that formation because that's obviously what the last one on the tactics and stuff, that's what I saw. So that's obviously what I went off.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of taken my question away, really. I was going to say, has he changed anything? Does it feel a little bit better? But clearly not. Where do you think he'll change anything for this home game, or do you think he'll literally stick to the 4-3-3?
I don't know about formation, but I imagine he might make some personnel changes, because I doubt Daniel Bachmann will start in goal again after the match he had yesterday. That was absolutely horrendous. So you might find that Hamer's back in goal. But with regards to formation, he's not very flexible, is he, Peter? He tends to stick with what he knows, doesn't he, generally?
Pretty much, apart from those halves that I've mentioned there, I cannot think of a time he's deviated from 4-3-3. He's only doing that at the moment because the consensus of opinion is we were surprised he wasn't let go 2 games ago, something like that. Oh,
wow. Okay.
We suspected he because we are on a run of something like, 1 win in 10? I mean, since Boxing Day, we've beaten Chesterfield in the Cup and we beat QPR with 2 long-range efforts. We don't create anything in the likes of, if you remember, a couple of the goals we scored were by a player called Rajovic, who was kind of making, if it wasn't quite his debut, but it was certainly his start.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
He is one of those players who is absolutely deadly from 3.5 inches from goal, providing that the goal is open and there's no Coventry player within the same postcode, right? He will finish almost 100% of the time in those situations. And what happened was Tom Ince created one, and Vacuum Bio created one, and he scored from close range. We don't create anything in close range for him at all. We don't. We get to. Justin spoke about the phone-in the other day. Somebody, we're very, very kind of surreal and very sarcastic, and fortunately, so are our listeners, which is lovely. And somebody turned to me and said, everybody's saying that we fall down coming to the final third. I have a suspicion that the final third does not exist, and That's it. It's like the end of the world in kind of the globe in 1500. You just got to the sea and everything ended and fell off the edge. That's what we're like when it comes to penalty box play at the moment.
Right. Okay. Mark, any questions at the minute?
I suppose the obvious question is, are you surprised that the Watford board haven't sacked Ismail yet? I guess is the obvious question. Very
surprised, because if you look back at what other managers have been sacked for in terms of form and results, he is, I'm not quite sure to say up or down there with the rest of them. It's a massive surprise. And when he got given a extended contract as well, when we were in 21st place, we were all like, what? This isn't how Watford do things. So there are questions as to why he's not been fired yet. The popular consensus on the terraces is we haven't got the money. We can't afford to sack him. I don't think we can afford to keep him personally. It's just, the football is terrible. Our home form is dreadful. And I am very, very surprised he's still in the job. I would say, I think if he loses on Saturday, I think you might find he's gone. It'd be my gut feeling.
Yeah. Do you not think he'll last to the end of the season and then make the changes, or do you think that will be too late?
I think it'll be too late, personally. I mean, I think perhaps a lot of people will say, well, look, you're safe. You've got no problems. But if you look at the league, it's very easy for us to get sucked into a relegation battle. Now, obviously, Rotherham, I think, have probably gone, bless them. I mean, they've I would say they've given it a good go. I don't think they have. And then there's, lots of other teams that are sort of hovering around there. But it only takes some of those teams to start winning and us to start losing, and you're sucked into it. And we're not safe at all at the moment. So I don't know. I mean, I honestly think, knowing our owners as we do, he's on the thinnest of ice. The sort of ice where the water starts seeping through.
Yeah.
He's there.
Right. Okay.
How very descriptive of ice you are. I like that.
He isn't he? Yeah.
very, very precise description.
It is the Watford story. Yeah. No,
that's right.
Here's the thing, right? In all of our games so far this season, right, we've played 35 games, like I'm sure you have. Guess how many of those games we've led at half time?
Two
games.
I was right. Come on.
Yeah. The point is, we've hardly scored in any more than that. To be honest with you, it's almost like the manager came out the other day and said, "Oh, I mean, there was we'll get and talk about the transfer window, but basically it was like the mass exodus out of Egypt. It was like everybody went. We thought we had a thin squad, and they went, no, that's not thin. This is thin. Oh, great." And so we're kind of like looking around going, well, can you play? I don't, have you got boots? That kind of thing. And he came out in the paper having supported everything. And like a lot of things with owners and managers, obviously they don't want to rock the boat. He's been a good corporate citizen. Because people have come out and gone, this place is batshit crazy. Why are you doing this? And they've not lasted long. He's come out and said, kind of the right things. No, I wanted a small squad. I wanted this. I wanted it all to be able to fit in one Mini Cooper, that kind of thing. And it was like, well, it's just kind of that's bonkers. His statement was, it's not the size of the squad, it's the schedule that's the issue. And we all went. It was just very, very strange. So I think in part the owners are trying their absolute level best, knowing that every Watford fan, obviously we're on the cusp of London. Everybody knows a Tottenham or an Arsenal or a Chelsea, or arseholes as we like to call them collectively. And it's like, well, they all come out and go, "Oh, you're sacking your manager, are you again?" Oh, yeah. And you go, "Yeah, try going to a game once in a while." And it's kind of like we would like to kind of just get away from that, at least for a period, and have some stability, rather than saying it's a Wednesday, what time are we sacking the manager? Because Justin and I can't do any more impromptu Twitter spaces. It's just please stay with it. But it's now gone. We've kind of like gone through it, and almost you feel like the owners are sitting there going, "Well, see, we told you wouldn't like it," because we're all sitting there going, "Why haven't they fired him yet? It's Wednesday and everything."
So it comes out tomorrow that Ismail's gone. Who would you want in?
Oh, well, There's the question, isn't it? I mean, who knows? Who knows? We never quite know who's going to come in. You know, the sacking corner flag post goes out, and we wait, and then sometimes we find out immediately, a la Kike's second coming, which I think was announced an hour after the previous manager was let go, or something bizarre comes out of left field like Roy Hodgson, and we'll hate them forever for bringing that sort of manager in, or him specifically. So I think, I don't know. I wouldn't have a clue. And that's why I'm not going to ever be on the board of Watford. Whoever comes in will be welcome, but will be there with the sword of Damocles over their head from day one, because that's what happens in our club. So other cool references are available, as well as thin ice analogies if you want another one.
Yeah. Would you take a Potter? Would you take a Potter?
We've got two hopes of getting Potter. No way would he come to this. The difficulty is because we have this Italian structure, shall we say, historically. We've now got we've this year, whilst we haven't sacked a manager, by the way, you'll be pleased to know that Gino Pozzo has been satisfying, that kind of almost like heroin-like addiction. They've been weaning him off with like a methadone substitute. If he sacked 2 technical directors, so it's not like the real thing, but it's kind of it'll get him through. So yeah, the thing is because of this structure, so many British managers won't come in and work under it at all. I'm trying to think of how many British managers we've had. Probably Nigel Pearson and Roy Hodgson are probably in the main.
Edwards.
Hodgson was a disaster. Edwards lasted 10 games and was fired because his hair was far too nice, and Sky were having to send more handsome support, kind of reporters to the ground. We weren't prepared to have that. So yeah, he was let go. We didn't really kind of support him. There seemed to be all sorts of things up and very strange. And we're that typical kind of look. You've come out of the Premiership. We're having to cut our cloth. Everybody talks about the wealth of the Premiership, but basically we came out of it with a mountain load of debt. And it wasn't like there was 7 years of feast and we kind of stored anything away. No. You blow it all in trying to keep in there. And so we are now cutting our cloth accordingly. We have a squad that is at best a mid-table Championship squad. And we look at, a lot of people look at Ishmael and go, well, he's getting out what he can get out of. And maybe when you were doing well, we were overachieving. But he is incredibly, what's the phrase? Predictable. I mean, all the West Brom fans, all the Besiktas fans said he'll play one formation. He won't change from it. He'll do 60-minute substitutions, and that will be it. And it's pretty much kind of what we get most of the time. Yeah. So, and we don't have the. Earlier on in the season, when we were doing okay, we were showing a lot of resilience because we never score first. We had to kind of, we had to come alive in the second half of games. So that kind of meant that people kind of started to like this team. But since Boxing Day, they've been not even dialing it in. That's been the issue.
Wow. Well, I would like to say that this is reverse psychology, Mark, wouldn't you? Really, because it's. It sounds, with their home form, we're not the worst on the road by any stretch of the imagination, but Robbins is very much a stubborn manager, just like I believe Ishmael is as well, isn't he, really? Because he's reverted now back to a back three, it looks like, just because we've got one, I know Sheaf's injured, but he still played a four at the back, but because Sakamoto's injured, is all of a sudden he's gone back to a back three. Do you see him changing at all, or do you think it's going to stick to a back three?
I think he'll keep it unchanged for this game. That's not what I would do personally. I would go forward at the back. I would like to see Van Ivak come back into the team. If it was me, if I'm Mark Robbins, I would bring Van Ivak back and maybe move Eccles into midfield.
Do you think maybe he's? Do you think he's read those WhatsApp messages and he might be changing his mind?
Well, I was going to mention that earlier.
Yeah, we'll come to that. Don't worry about that. Now, the reason why I'm saying that about Van Ivak is because, obviously the guys Justin and Pete might have a different opinion on this. Whenever I've seen Ken Sema play, I feel a bit worried. I think he's a decent player on the wing, and I think we need someone fairly pacey who can keep up with him. So that's why I would be tempted to go Van Ivak. I know Eccles had a very good game though.
He did. He did have a good game.
He did really well. So I get the argument for keeping him, but I'm not being funny. Rotherham were abysmal on midweek. They were absolutely shocking. But that's not our fault. We did the job. We played really, really well. But I think for Watford, that's the only change I would make. I wouldn't bring Callum O'Hare back. I'd keep the same team other than that. But I think Robbins will probably keep it unchanged. That's what I think he will do.
Well, the good news for you is one. Ken Sema has, because we've got a small squad, he picked up an injury. He's been back playing with that injury and not fully recovered. And then yesterday in the first half, he went down with an ankle knock. There's no way I'd be very, very surprised if he's playing tomorrow. Your gentleman Ewok will be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. The other player, right? Actually, I've seen a couple of times is Asprilla. How's he been playing for this season?
He's a nice little player. Yeah, he's all right. He's still very, very young, so he's quite raw. He has the odd long range shot on him that goes in. On his day, he's great, but I mean, if you take the last game last night against Swansea, I don't think he shone in it very much for me. I didn't think he was all that. I don't think he's sort of the one player you want to watch as sort of the you've got to watch him and see what he does. He's absolutely amazing. He's incredible. He does what he does and he does it well. And he has these often sort of magic moments. But yeah, I like him. I really like Asprilla. I think he's probably one of those players that'll get sold at the end of the season. I think Barca sniffing around him, Peter. Was that something that we read somewhere?
But Barca are sniffing around everybody, aren't they? According to the press. I put him in the similar category to João Pedro. So we've got a good supply of South Americans coming over, bringing in, premium grade Colombian. Sounds wrong, but that's what we've done. And he's kind of, I describe him as like a Poundland Phil Foden. He operates on the right. He's got some touches. I think he's a blistering player. I think he's fantastic. I think he's playing in a very, very mundane, poor mid-table side. And he's there. He hasn't got anything to bounce off because Rajovic, who we mentioned earlier on, who plays up front, and scored those 2 goals against you. He's playing like a competition winner. In terms of with his back to goal, he's never had to do it before. He's played in the Danish kind of 3rd division and then about 6 months in the Premier League, scored some goals and then dried up. Guess what's happened with us? Kind of similar. Yeah. When we spoke to Troy Deeney, he said, actually, I'd work with him and this is what I do and this is how I build him up. And this is because Troy Deeney knows how every trick in the book from a centre forward position. He doesn't. That might be a perfect addition kind of thing to bring in and kind of work on at some stage, perhaps, for this player. But from a Asprilla's point of view, you can't bounce the ball off of him. It's like playing the ball into your average bar of Toblerone. It's not coming back. It'll go one way or t'other, but it ain't going to go where you're expecting it. So there's no way he can kind of feed off. If you stuck him in a team with better players, he would be a different type of player because his technique is, as I say, when you see him, you might look at it and go, what on earth is he talking about? But you might look at it and go, oh, I sort of see what he means.
Yeah.
If City wanted to buy contingency cover for a literally a like for like basis, you'd go with that. Yes, he's a Poundland version at the moment, but he's got capability.
Wow. Okay, fair enough.
Just quickly, going back to your question, I think I'll keep it unchanged now after receiving that insult to Pete. I'll keep it unchanged. Can I change my answer? That's all right.
Trust me, you could put 4 sunbeds out at the back. We wouldn't manage to beat you.
Wow. See, again, I think this is reverse psychology.
I don't.
No, I think it's going to be a harder game than you guys are making out. Personally,
I think you need to look at if you've got time, look at our last 5 matches and then come back to us and apologise.
They did beat Rotherham, in fairness, at Rotherham. But
that was the last minute. That was Asprilla, wasn't it? Last minute
with a long range shot and I think our stat is we've scored the most goals from outside of the penalty box. And you go, wow, that's fearsome, kind of shut them down around the edge. There's a reason we've done that. It's because nobody is trying. There's no opportunity to try to create a little kind of give and go or a bit of imagination or get to the line. It's where we're having to take shots from. Fortunately, we have got quite a lot of good capability in that kind of number 10/number 8 position who can kind of fire it in. Because they need to, because they don't look like they trust the 2 forwards that we've got. And we've got Emmanuel Dennis. He came in, but we'll talk about him obviously from the transfer point of view. But he's being played out of position. He is our one spark, but he's no good if he's playing out wide.
Yeah, obviously, you mentioned Emmanuel Dennis. He was the one that I actually picked out for your January transfer windows. But in total, didn't you brought in another couple of people, didn't you?
We made the check for Dadzi loan permanent. Was the other one, wasn't it?
Here.
Oh, okay.
And there was a player called Cabazas or Hurtado, depending on which you want to call him, who we'd signed about a year and a half ago. We put him out to Gillingham. He was injured after 4 games, and so he's not. No, we went from a squad of about 23 down to a squad of 22. 24.
Yeah, because in the summer you let out. I've got that you let out 17, but did you let more than that go then?
It was about that. We signed 6, and I think we ended up letting 22 go out in the end. But obviously, many of those would have been kind of fringe players, perhaps, and wouldn't have registered on something like transfer marks.
Oh, okay, fair enough. And obviously, you mentioned the injured player as well. Seema going down. Bayo looks like he's back. I believe he was in the squad in the team against Swansea. And obviously, you mentioned Backman as well, but you believe that he might be out due to not playing very well against Swansea.
I would be amazed if he sticks with Backman, because he had a howler yesterday. And I don't think he was any improvement whatsoever on Hamer. I think he might have been trying to firm things up a little bit. But, if you look at that own goal, you just go, that didn't work, did it? So for me, I'd be amazed if he stuck with Backman, really.
Yeah, obviously.
I think he probably will start with Backman because he'll just not change anything. I think he knows his goose is cooked, and I think he'll just stick with whatever's there. We'll see what happens. I think somewhat for fans, we're all desperate, obviously, to get the win, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
But some of them will look at it and go, do we want this to kind of just fester on, or do we want to we just almost want the season to end? And it would be interesting to see whether or not, if he got 3 points, whether or not that actually might bring a change forward. Some people are going, no, we don't want to see that. Other people are going, well, do we really want to suffer this for the last, kind of 9 or 10 games of the season?
Yeah.
It's not what it was, and it's been going on so long, and you can see that he doesn't have the answers. When you turn up at Fulham and then you play Swansea, and you are playing 2 formations you haven't played before all season, because you're told you need to get 4 points out of the next 2 games, and what you do is basically just rip up all of the stuff you've been working and just go play that. He's out of time, I think.
Yeah, it definitely sounds that way. Obviously, Mark, we know what it's like in terms of Robins switching and changing formations and switching and changing goalkeepers, if you like, as well, because that seems to be a little bit of a merry-go-round for us, doesn't it, really?
It does. I mean, I struggled. I don't really understand the reasons why Ben Wilson was playing ahead of Brad Collins. That just sounded, to me, Brad Collins is a far better keeper. But obviously, we don't really know the reasons for that. And yeah, I mean, Robbins is a very stubborn manager as well. But I think he did put out the right team for Rotherham, and hopefully, as I say, hopefully he'll stick to the same side on Saturday. I think it's a good time to play Watford. Obviously, the whole business that we mentioned earlier about the whole Textgate stuff with Dean Austin was a bit unhelpful from our point of view, because that could give Watford some added motivation ahead of this game. So we've obviously got to be mindful of that a little bit. But look, they're a side that I've been losing a lot of games. The confidence is not very high. And in some ways, I'm glad Ismail's manager, because I think had they sacked him before the match and we've got a new manager bounce, it might have been a harder game. So I'm quite happy from that point of view that he's still the manager. We need to start winning games away from home. With it's not been too bad a record, but we've got to go to Watford and really target 3 points. We're good enough to win. If we play the way we can play, we can win this game. But like any game in the Championship, if you underestimate any sides, you can come unstuck. So we've got to be on it. Simple.
Yeah, definitely. We've been there. We beat Stoke a couple of weeks ago, and then we go and lose. We go and lose to Preston when our home form's relatively okay and stuff like that. So, Justin, Your expectations from the season.
Oh, yeah.
I presume that they've completely and utterly changed now. What were they at the start of the season, and what are they now?
Well, there's a very good question. I think most people would have taken a mid-table finish at the beginning of the season, mainly because the previous 2 seasons have been so attritional in terms of the football, and also kind of how the club have kind of been carrying on. Lots of people saying they felt disassociated from the club, and all sorts of things were going on. So there was generally bad feeling around the club the last 2 seasons, and there were some shouts for the owner to go at the end of last season. So I think most people would have said, look, if we can have stability and we can have a manager that's backed, and he is kept on, and we finish mid-table, that will be fine. The trouble is that has come to fruition, and the manner in how we've achieved mid-table has been so bad. The football's been so awful. Nothing really has changed. So I think my expectation for hopefully top 10 finish, or maybe even the playoffs. Now I'm hoping to survive and stay in the division. So they've shifted, down maybe 4 or 5 places.
Yeah.
Whether that now goes down more places remains to be seen.
Yeah. Pete, is that the same for you? The same consensus as Justin?
What I asked for, because I'm one of these people who does avoid a prediction if ever possible. But when I was asked what did I think and what did I want from the season, I said I wanted the team to be more than the sum of its parts, because for 4 seasons we have been pretty shapeless, pretty rudderless, pretty clueless. We've been probably a bit harsh in some ways on Ishmael, because he came into a really toxic dressing room and laid down a few disciplinary rules and got a few things done. And at the start, as we said, as Justin mentioned there, actually a number of people were saying they were liking this team because they were showing that resilience. They were coming back. They were fighting back into games. But of course, you can only go into a boxing match that that the other bloke have 10 hits at you and still kind of recover, and so many times before you're punch drunk. And since Boxing Day, that's where we've been. And the season has been a little bit like a game where it's a draw. And it depends on the order of the goals scored as to how you feel about it. If you're behind and you come back, and it's a tremendous, you've snatched a draw, it almost feels like a win. This isn't. We've started all right. We've always, we've been there. It's been close, but the club haven't really supported him, although he has not wanted, apparently, a large squad. He wanted to work with a small squad. There are rumours that he's been upset that we bought even one player in. And that's upset the delicate poor loves in the dressing room that somebody else was brought in. So overall, it goes with the sense of momentum through the season. It started well, and I think people will look at this one overall in I don't know 2 or 3 years' time and look at it and go, yeah, it was a poor season, but actually he came in, he galvanized the dressing room. He did all right at the start with what he got, which probably we'll look back at this squad and hopefully think that we can strengthen it at some point, because even though all the fight, everybody's having to kind of cut their costs, etc. We need to be more creative in the market. We need to bring in some players, even if they're lower league players. We've been bringing almost nigh on nobody in. It needs freshening up as much as anything.
Yeah.
And I think he'll be judged as somebody who had to come in, work in difficult circumstances, and sort of did okay. It's just a shame the order that it's gone in. Because if he'd have come in and started as we've been playing since January, people would have been going, well, the owners haven't supported him. And then he'd grown it. He'd have kind of grown up and improved it. He hasn't. He's come in. He had a 7-week pre-season. They started like a house on fire. Even those first 4 games where I said we couldn't buy a goal, we still, we really couldn't. But you could see that there was something there. And that has slowly whittled away. We've got to the second half of the season where teams have played us and worked us out. There is no plan B. There is no adaptation until, as I say, the last 2 games, when really the job's on the line and you're just basically spinning the dice at that point. So, it'll be a shame that it didn't work. Lots of people would have liked him to have worked. But yeah, so I think, no, it hasn't been. we have to hope that we get through and to safety, and that if they do make a change, they bring in somebody like Tom Cleverley, who's currently under 18s, or Charlie Daniels, who's the under 21, who seems to be kind of ignored in these kind of conversations. And we have a plethora of players such as Paul Robinson, Nigel Gibbs, obviously the aforementioned Troy Deeney, who could come in as part of a management squad and kind of start the club healing again, because there isn't anybody really there. The other one who in our Troy Deeney interview, by the way, got some heaps of praise on him was Dean Austin, because he was when we were going through kind of foreign manager after foreign manager after foreign manager, none of whom we would have heard of, particularly unless you were scouring world soccer. Dean Austin was incredibly highly regarded as the man who was, the local knowledge, certainly the mouthpiece. And under one of our promotion seasons, Troy credits him with having done the majority of the coaching. So, yeah, we might come and nick him off of you if he can leave his phone at home.
Not a chance. Not a chance. Is ours.
I tell you something this year. I mean, listening to all that, it makes you realise how lucky we are in our situation. We've got Mark Robbins, who's been at the club 7 years this week. We've got an owner who's and not just in fairness to see, so they backed Mark Robbins, but they were very
towards the end they did a little bit more.
Yeah, but look, I think it's amazing if you can just be patient. If you get the right person and you're patient and you let. You give them that opportunity that things can happen. And look where we are as a club, where, obviously last season we were a penalty shootout from beating Watford's friends Luton. And
we haven't forgiven you for that, by the way.
I know.
Yeah, sorry about that.
In fairness, I think the Cov guys feel bad enough about that already, Justin.
Sorry, okay. All right. All right. You're right. Okay.
Yeah, I live in Bedfordshire, so I've seen Luton fans. So yeah, it wasn't a nice experience, believe me.
I know. Yeah, they walk around in herds, dragging their knuckles across the ground, wondering which one of them will develop thumbs first. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's Peter saying that, by the way. I just nodded and sort of disapprovingly shook my head.
Okay, question then. Valerian Ismail.
Yep.
If he's still the manager next year, how would you feel?
I'd be in a parallel universe, I think. How would I feel? I think we've done something horrendously wrong, because if the manager if the board want to back him after what we've had already, I think they'd be out of their minds. So it's not going to happen, mate. He'll be gone. If he's not gone by this game, I think is crucial. If we lose this or draw this, he's gone. I think he's got to win it. Okay. And if that hasn't happened, I think he'll be gone. If he's still here next season, I will have to seriously think about renewing my season ticket or not.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Pete, do you feel the same?
It would definitely be a parallel universe. You would hope that in some universe, our ownership might look at a manager who has, by all accounts, this is always rumor, but hopefully it's informed rumor, was reticent to bring in new, fresh players. The club have always provided players. It's not necessarily always been the players that the manager might have actually asked for or wanted, but we are literally at a threadbare level in terms of the actual squad that we have. I would much rather, if he does get us secured, or if he doesn't get us secured, whichever reason they decide, I would like to see a change after Saturday, and I would like a Tom Cleverley to come in. And if we're secure, especially if you go, okay, we've got 50 points or we're 49 points, bring him in and play more of the youth. Give them a chance, give them an experience, because the last time we had this, because we were coming down with Roy Hodgson, we just came down with a whimper, and he was like, oh, well, now I'm going to try and play the youngsters. No, he didn't bother. And that kind of thing is worth its weight in gold, because we've had an academy that has lost players such as Jadon Sancho to Man City, Harry Amas, who's kind of predicted of good things from Man United. And I'm sure I'm not the only, we're not the only club to go, damn those big clubs with category 1 or A coming and nicking our players. But actually, what you need to do in order to do that is show that there is a pathway. So I would like to see that. Tom Cleverley has only been in his role, I think, basically for this season.
Yeah, he retired
But
at the end of the season, didn't he?
he is doing by all accounts, he's doing a very good, sterling job. He's got masses of experience. I think we could do potentially worse than him. But the thing is that when I mentioned earlier on that we had a toxic dressing room culture before Valerian came in, Tom was part of that, and nobody was changing that because Tom was about. So you would need him to have a sergeant major type. So if you saw some kind of Tom Cleverley, for the thought and the process and the managing and the coaching, and Troy Deeney to kick the living out of them if they didn't do it, that might go some way. But also then somebody additional with some experience as well, because we know about those wise, wizened old assistant managers like Keith Birkinshaw, who made a certain manager who darkened both of our doors, gave him his best season at our place. And yes, I'm simply winning a private joke between Justin at this moment in time, but that's fine.
You are, and he didn't darken our door; he brightened our team for at least one season. Let's take this offline afterwards, Peter. These people don't need to hear.
Adrian Boothroyd brightened our team for a season. It's a shame he stayed for 3.5, but never mind.
I think the key takeaway really is you mentioned about the number of signs you're making is personality is as much as important when you sign a player as the technical ability. Because if you look at our squad, Stuart, I'm sure you agree with this. What Robertson's instilled and he's done this for a number of years now, is a great team spirit, great work ethic. The players get on with each other, the mates as well outside of. And when we win games, the players will celebrate, and there's a really good, strong camaraderie. And I think listening to what Pete and what Justin's saying, I think that's probably something lacking in Watford is just players getting on with each other. I think that's the thing that maybe scouts overlook, isn't it? It's not just about, there could be like Lionel Messi, but if they're just an idiot and not a nice person, and they destroy team spirit and camaraderie, then they're a bad apple. And I think that sounds like there's a bit of a culture issue there at Watford, isn't there? Would that be a right thing to say? Or
there has absolutely been that, and it was improved greatly. And it was one of the things that people said, this is a much easier team to like. One, because it's not costing us the earth and still being awful, in terms of kind of wage bill, because it's been decimated and cut down. But also because there was this kind of ability to maybe come back. We also had, he dropped Ishmael, when I said about him dealing with that issue, he dropped 4 players from the starting 11 to the bench, or from the bench out of the squad on 4 separate occasions. And these were for kind of missing or being late to meetings. And everyone went, well, kind of isn't that? And the club said, no, this isn't because the M25 was snarly or anything like that. This is about, they've been in since 9 o'clock and they wander into a 2 o'clock meeting at 2:15. This is about discipline. This is about foundation. Yeah. This is the culture, and this is what you do when you are here. And he was setting that from ground zero. And hopefully that has improved greatly. A lot of good stuff is going on with the academy, not just Tom, but before him in place, Richard Johnson and Jimmy Gilligan, two absolute legends in different eras, but both connected to Graham Taylor, who of course is really essential for the DNA of our club, all the way through. So there is a lot of good stuff that's going on there. We had a group fans meeting that we were sort of involved in with the owner for the first time in 11 years. We finally battered down his door to talk to us. And the overriding thing was, they said, look, we've got everything here. It's all good. It's all stable. We just keep getting the wrong manager, basically. And this year they've tried to stick with him. I think probably despite their best frustration when, they would always kind of jump. The problem is, if you've had a manager and you change him every 3 months, there is no manager bounce, because the players just go, if we don't do anything, in 3 months there'll be another one, and we'll just ignore him as well. So we've had to go through this reset, and I think Ishmael has done reasonably well in that regard. But the football has been shocking. Some people who we know and respect their opinions, describe him as a manager permanently with the handbrake on. So it's kind of, it's always try to avoid a defeat. You try to avoid a defeat rather than going for the win, and so that's difficult. So So I'm not sure quite how good, toxic or otherwise, but it's an incredibly small dressing room at this moment in time. But your point about Mark Robbins is, every time we come around, is how he's been there now. He's gone past his
7 years. Yeah, just.
I mean, 7 years. I mean, that's just lunacy. I mean, we'd be giving him his own stand by then. I mean,
well, hopefully we will be at some point. That would be nice for him. Yeah. Right. So just to bring it back to sort of Saturday's game a little bit. Again, I don't know whether you guys follow any other team. Not follow any of the team, but if you follow the Championship and stuff, what have you seen from Coventry that posed the threats against you guys on Saturday?
Well, obviously, Ellis Sims is suddenly scoring goals, and he looks like a unit. We looked at that with interest because it looked like you'd overpaid for him, to be quite frank, early on, because it was like he didn't really pull up trees at Sunderland. I think he was on loan, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was, yeah.
But obviously, against Rotherham, scoring does always have that caveat of against Rotherham, bless them, which was something. But the player that I really like the look of, I thought Haji Wright looks like he could be a real player, but he looks like he blows a little bit hot and cold. Obviously, Ben Sheaf is somebody who, in a way, I know he's injured at the moment, but in a way that's probably good for you, because otherwise somebody would come and snaffle him, I'm sure.
Yeah, he. I believe, I don't know how true it is, but I've heard that obviously he is on the grass back training, and he might be on the bench on Saturday. I would rather not risk and play him if we don't need to, because obviously we've got the quarterfinals coming up against Wolves, and obviously we have got other games that are just as important as this one on Saturday. I'm very much a firm believer of win your home games, draw your away games, and you'll be somewhere close come the end of the season. So even if we get a point, it's not the end of the world against you guys. How are you feeling about that one, Mark?
See, I slightly disagree with that. I think we need to win. I don't think a draw is a good result. We need to win because we're still okay. We did close the gap a bit on the whole, but we need to win. I think Watford are there for the taking. They're not playing well. We shouldn't fear them. I wouldn't personally be happy with a draw. I think we need to win because I look at our next couple of games. You've got Huddersfield away, and okay, they're fighting for their lives, but you've got to look at a win there. And when you go into April. And that's where it's going to be really tough. And that's when you're playing Leeds, Ipswich, Southampton, Hull City. They're massive games. So I think this is a game we've got to win. I don't think a draw is good enough for me. We need the 3 points.
Okay. Justin, any other players from our side that you're worried about, or is Pete nailed them all on the head?
No, he's nailed them. Unless is Brian Kilcline still playing for you? No, probably not. No. So yeah, no. I think Pete is probably nailed.
He's lost his place to Steve Sedgley. That's fine.
I see.
No. Okay, excellent. So, Mark, can I get a prediction out of you for Saturday, or are you going to sit on the fence?
No, I'm gonna say we're gonna win 2-1. I think we'll be 2 up. I think Watford will pull one back. It might be a slightly nervy finish, but I think we'll just sneak a win.
Okay, I'll come to you first, Justin. Well, you're going to win. It's just by what score? Yeah, I think we'll probably lose 1 or 2-0. To be honest with you, I'll go with a 2-0. Yeah, 2-0 Coventry.
Pete.
I also like Casey Palmer, by the way. I think he's he's a solid player. I'm always the one who never does. So in our prediction league, nobody is allowed to go 1-1. So I'm going to go for 1-1 just to induce.
Okay, fair enough. I'm actually to be fair, at the start of this pod, I was gonna be a little bit more optimistic for you guys, really, obviously, clearly. But now hearing how much trouble you're in and the dressing room and not playing very well, and I'm gonna go for a 3-0 win. I don't think there's anything else that I can do, really. I think we'll score goals, and another nice clean sheet would be lovely. So yeah, I'm going to go for a 3-0 win. Any final questions, Mark?
Sure, we might be reverse psychology. There might be, as you're saying earlier.
Well, I've said that already, but clearly not.
promise you it isn't.
Yeah.
I promise you. As I say, go and watch our last 5. You'll be asleep by the first half of the first one. But
Yeah.
go back and watch the last 5 games, and you'll go, yeah, no, they're quite right. This lot are terrible. Really, really. We had a free kick the other day against Millwall. Yasser Asprilla got pulled down in the centre circle, and we played it backwards. I mean, it's just stuff like that. And then we had another free kick later on, which I think Jamal Lewis took, and it hit the foot of the first defender in the wall. And you just go, yeah, you don't care. You're not even trying. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's not great.
Okay, so it might be 5 now. I'm going to change it. I'm going to go 5.
Yeah, change it to 5-0, yeah.
I love the thought.
Right, any questions, Mark?
I love the thought that
nothing
somebody
from me.
Watford is sending us out as reverse psychology. Who can we go out to? Send those 2 idiots. They'll do it. Yeah.
I know, yeah. Excellent. Right, so before we finish, I've just got a quick fire questions for you two. Just give us a one-worded answer if you can. If it goes on a little bit longer, don't worry.
Yeah.
And some of them, well, one of them I thought was going to be a little bit ropey, but hearing you guys, I think all of them might be a little bit ropey.
Oh, God.
We're just going to ask Brian Kilcline to any of them. That's fine.
So the first one, Vicarage Road.
Home.
Pete?
It's our home, yeah.
Home. Okay. Valerian and Ishmael.
Sacked.
Gone.
Okay. Luton.
Scum.
Shithole.
Player of the season so far.
God, how long have we got? Livermore, possibly.
I thought you were going to say the fans there for a minute.
no, they're all turning against each other. Yeah. No, Livermore, I would say, probably. Peter?
Okay, Pete?
I'd say Hoot, simply because Livermore hasn't
Hoot,
played enough because he has to be taken, rested and watered.
Okay. And the last one, favourite away ground.
Ooh. It's been a while since I've been away, actually. I'll let you go first, Peter, while I think.
I'm gonna claim 2, just simply because I'm going to buy you time whilst thinking.
Thank you.
I've always loved Molineux. I think that's great. It's especially great because you have, you'll go in there anyway soon. But obviously you've got those Wolves fans now in that big stand at the right when they're kind of literally risking life and limb just to insult you, which is always a pleasure of going to Wolves. And then I will finally just go to Port Vale simply for a pork and apple bat that I experienced in 1994 that has now become legendary on our podcast.
Wow.
I'm going to be controversial. I'm going to say Kenilworth Road because because it reminds me of how bad things could be if we hadn't invested and done so well. We played there last April, and I just remember going through those turnstiles and up those rickety metal stairs, looking across into people's gardens, and I just thought, and you look at, and then when you're in there, you go, well, you've clearly just built that bit on, and then you've done a different style completely for that bit, and so just to really remind me of how great we are, then I'd have to say Kenilworth Road.
Style at Luton.
Exactly, there is no style, and that in its own way is a style, Peter.
A bomb could go off and do hundreds of pounds of improvement.
It could, absolutely, hundreds of pounds of improvements.
That's probably the best answer to a question I've heard. We've asked that same question, to different fans. I think that.
Yeah, well, fortunately, it's just us four that are seeing this, right? It doesn't go anywhere else, surely.
Yeah,
you don't put this. Oh, you do. You put it on YouTube. Now I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
They know we love them, really. We get on all right. We actually get on all right with most Luton sort of podcasts and fans and stuff. So they'll probably take that in the spirit it's meant. Bless them.
Yeah.
Not your knuckle dragging thing, Peter. That's why I disassociate myself from that.
One of my grandparents was born in Luton. I mean, obviously, I'd never talked to her, but other than that, it's fine.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for coming on, Pete, Justin. It's been a pleasure. Just before you go, just remind us of where we can find you and what you guys do.
So do not scratch your eyes. We're pretty much everywhere. Mainly audio-based podcasting. Carl, one of our other hosts, does some vlogs on YouTube, but mainly it's audio only. But if you go to donotscratchyoureyes.com, links all over the place there. Give us a follow.
Yeah,
will do.
We do a Twitter space, which will probably be starting because I have to get home to do it. But Justin sets the time, so it's like I've got to set the land speed record to get back for it.
You can always ask me to adjust it, Peter. I'm happy to do it 10 minutes later. It's fine.
Yeah, that would involve a squabble and probably an argument about AD Boothroyd. So we don't do that. If anybody's travelling back 5:20, if you come on to DNSYE_spaces on Twitter, we'll be talking complete and utter tripe there, but we've got very lovely listeners and Watford fans who ring in and talk sense, which is a good job because it's a great counterbalance to us idiots.
Fantastic. So just before I let everybody else go, just remember where you can find us, guys, at All Things Sky Blue. We're on X or Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. Please go and like and subscribe. This will go out on podcasts as well, Spotify, Amazon, and wherever else you get your podcasts from. Please go and rate us 5 stars on there. It is very much appreciated. We're partnered with the Anecdote Sports Bar at the CBS Arena, and we're also sponsored by Right Steel Fabrications. Mark, Justin, Pete, thank you very much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. It's been great. It's been funny. Absolutely loved it. Thank you very much.
Safe travels when you're coming down, guys.
Good luck for the rest of the season, apart from Saturday, obviously.
We need it. Thank you.
What's the point of that? That was when